Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Jacob Silverblade, and today we're going to be covering quite a bit. Expect a bit of a long one. I've tried to take multiple takes of this, try and explain it quickly, and I've simply discovered that I cannot do that properly. I need to dedicate some time towards this and explain over a longer period of time because I want to talk about many details for this. It's going to be talking about the article and how they're introducing a lot of changes on the 23rd of October, so in a short period of time now. And we're also going to be talking about this article a little bit, which is just talking about the new Space Wolves and how they're going to be released and the things with that as well. So talking about this one first, because this is the bigger one here. It's the easiest way to split this up is that we can talk about skirmish mode, which goes basically all the way down to here. Then we can talk about the faction leaderboards and how they're making certain changes to classic mode, which I do think is a good thing. And then we're talking about the resource management system and how to collect more cards, that sort of thing, in this part here. And then there's a little bit tied on at the end, which is what they'll be talking about here. So let's basically get to it. This is just acknowledging there's going to be a big change on the 23rd October with the new Space Wolves. And then we get into very quickly, which is the main segment of this, which is skirmish mode. Basically, skirmish mode is being introduced, which is a good thing. It's to have its own ranking and leaderboard. That's also a good thing for the people who do take it competitively seriously. I certainly won't be. It's just not the game mode for me. I don't like how quick it is. I like it how quick it is, just able to play once in a while. But I don't like it how quick it is in terms of playing it regularly. So I won't be playing it regularly for certain. But then we get on to problematic things to start off with. And that is changing the new player experience. Basically, because of such success from skirmish mode that they acknowledge here, they've decided to make skirmish mode a gateway for new players. Which means that the sort of tutorial matches, which are all done be in skirmish mode, everything's skirmish mode now. The 4 factions they did tutorials with in the past, which was these 4, it's now doing in skirmish mode. There's a lot of things in skirmish mode. The only thing I would say very quickly on this is that you've got the Ultramarines, the Orcs, the Black Legion, and Psynac Dynasty, the Necrons, all for the tutorial matches for this. I understand back in the day that these original 4 factions I believe were, but it would have been quite good to add the Imperial Guard into this just because they're very easy pick up to play sort of faction, and not difficult or complicated even to play, and you don't need the biggest collection in the world to do well with them. So it would have been quite good idea to put an Imperial Guard into this list and probably take out Necrons for them instead, because Necrons are a little bit more complicated. You know, they add a little bit more onto that mental load side of things, but very difficult stuff. Particularly for newer players, you know, we don't want to put too much mental load on newer players. Just need to relieve that mental load. Get them doing breathing exercises, that sort of thing. Calm them down. It's just Warforged, guys. It's all fine. But, you know, like, we need to... It would have been good to add Imperial Guard to that list, I think. Here we're talking about starter decks and how starter decks are back. And how it was a terrible decision to remove them in the first place, but we're not going to bring it all the way back to how it was in the first place. We're just going to put it for skirmish mode, because it's all about skirmish mode now. Basically, they did have starter decks back in the past, which was a really good thing, because it was a good thing that for new players, they would just get on with playing the game, because you can't play the game until you get 30 cards. So new players now actually have to wait until they get to 30 cards, and then they can start playing the game. Which was never a good thing, or they played draft, which always sucked for new players. Otherwise, you know, either they had to buy a premium campaign, or they just couldn't start playing the game straight away, which was so stupid and dumb. Still, they've decided to make it so that you can play the game straight away. Yay, but you have to be playing skirmish mode. Because they think that's, quite clearly from this, they quite clearly think that's going to be the main game mode from now on. And I think this is going to be pushed even more so in the next segment as well, but they're doing this now for this game mode. They're doing it here. They're adding skirmish mode here. It's like, here's skirmish mode, play it. And that's going to be put on to newer players but at least they've gone part of the way that you do at least start the game with a skirmish mode deck. You do at least start with this, right? This is a good thing. At least you do start with that. So even though from when it has in the past, it's 2 steps back and 1 step forward for newer players, at least now they've taken the 1 step forward. So hopefully they don't take 2 steps back again. We'll see, but you know, I do think a starter deck is a good thing. It's just a shame they don't have a starter deck for skirmish mode, and it's a shame there's only going to be locked to skirmish mode, sorry, and it's not done with classic mode either. But now we move on to the next segment, which is newer players will not be able to see classic mode from the start. This is a very bad thing. Why don't you give the player the option to be able to play skirmish or classic mode from the start? It doesn't make sense. Basically, how they're going to do this is with all players will be getting a matchmaking collector level. Sorry, not matchmaking collector level, but increase the collecting level with upgrading cards once players reach a certain collector milestone. You can only start playing classic mode as soon as you reach collector milestone. Now hopefully this collector milestone is just simply having 30 cards of one faction, then they can start playing classic mode. That would be nice. It wouldn't make sense to me that you would have, like, they wouldn't be able to see classic mode at that point, because you need 30 cards anyway to be able to play classic mode anyway in the first place. But hey ho, collector milestone, right? It wouldn't make sense to me to like do it like that anyway, so I'd imagine you would actually have to get more than 30 cards in one faction. They're able to start playing classic mode. They're able to start playing that properly, which should be, certainly in my opinion, should just be the better game mode. The game is designed for it. It's not designed for skirmish mode. It doesn't make sense to do this. They should really just have it on that, but whatever. This is where we are now. So do that for newer players. When the update goes live, all players will get a matchmaking collector level according to their current collection. So we don't be playing a whole bunch of players with the same matchmaking level, which is not a good thing. All players would get a matchmaking collector level according to their current collection. I mean, like, so hopefully we don't have to play people against. Sorry, I've misread that. Hopefully we don't have to play people with the same matchmaking collector level. It's not wrong to have this in principle, but the fact that it directly inhibits some people from just playing classic mode is gonna be a real shame. What I will say is that hopefully the restriction is that you need able to have a good collection of every single faction before you're able to play classic mode. Because guess what? I don't even have a good GSC collection because I hate the GSC. So it would be a real shame if I'm just now straight up inhibited from being able to play Genes of the Occult because of this. Sorry, not Genes of the Occult, but classic mode because of this. We'll find out. I imagine that I wouldn't be put into that category because pretty much all my other factions are fully collected at this point. Of every single other faction apart from GSC. I have a decent collection of each one. I've got many legendaries of each one, to be frankly honest. I'm not missing that many cards at all, really. Maybe some forge level points, because I haven't got that high in each forge level. But really, I'm not that far behind, to be frankly honest. So I would say, let's wait and see on this, because hopefully they don't give details of what level or milestone there is needed to get to go along and play classic mode, and like how much this is going to affect individual players in the first place. But overall, the fact that you just cannot play classic mode from the very beginning of this game, I think is just not a good thing. I really don't. This is a small part here, basically going along and saying that everything will look like as if it was played in skirmish mode, with your warlords on the screen showing it has 10 less life unless you actually play classic mode, which is just cementing more and more so that everything's now skirmish mode. And then we do have finally draft mode. Draft mode now being a form of skirmish mode. This actually has pros and cons. This final point. The pros are that draft modes are quicker. because skirmish mode games are quicker, so able to get 12 wins is done be quicker. So for the average person playing draft, which is just coming here to play a draft game, 2 or there to able to get it done and then go off and go back to classic mode just for a bit of a break or whatever, it isn't going to take that long. So I think if I'm going to be playing skirmish mode from now on, I'm going to be playing it in draft, to be frankly honest. I don't think I'm ever going to touch the actual skirmish mode. I think I'm just going to be playing skirmish mode in draft now the entirety of the time. I think overall, I think this is going to be a good thing. But I do completely recognize that there's also a big downside, and the big downside is for people who play draft mode regularly on a day-to-day basis already right now as it is. And those people feel probably really left out behind because now you can't play classic mode in draft mode and actually go for that long 12-win streak sort of system and actually have good fun from it. So I ultimately think, yeah, draft mode is really not that great right now. Draft mode isn't that really. This is not good for draft players. I really don't. People who like how classic mode plays, and they like how the draft adds an interesting aspect to that, I think it's really messed things up for them. And I do know players in Discord who do play it like that, and I feel sorry for their draft sort of wins, and then them playing the game and how they now feel ultimately behind because of this. So I'm really torn on this one individual point. Yes, it's good for the common man, but I feel sorry for the people who are actually dedicated to draft, because there is those players and how they've been just kicked aside and not allowed to do the thing they want to. I think really, EG, what they should have done is have skirmish mode for draft and then draft for, and keep draft as it is. Create an entirely new game mode, which is just skirmish mode, but draft for skirmish mode, if that makes sense. I think that would have been the best thing to do, really, and just kept draft mode as it is. Because as it is, most people aren't even playing draft mode anyway. So I acknowledge this is going to speed up draft games, but I don't think it's going to be. I do certainly feel sorry for those people. So now we've got on to basically the first of the major segments, which is just talking about skirmish mode. Overall, I do think it's good that skirmish mode has been added. I think it's terrible that skirmish mode is now the main focus. I absolutely hate this, that skirmish mode is now the main focus, and it shouldn't be the case. It really shouldn't be. Skirmish mode shouldn't be the main focus, and should really be something different. Yeah. It should be classic mode. I don't know why they've made this decision. I think it's because they've seen during the first week how successful it was. But I can easily explain that because of 2 reasons. First reason, it was brand new. During the brand new thing of the first week, it's always going to have more success than later down on the line when it dies out. So they probably saw great success from skirmish mode during their first week, when it was a bit of fun, able to play this, able to try out, do some different things, nice and all that stuff. But once that goes away, it dies, and then it doesn't see gamer playing. That's quite typical for most games, to be frankly honest. So it doesn't surprise me that's the same thing that happened with skirmish mode. The second thing definitely is classic mode was doing so badly, so when you gave an alternative option for people to then go along which weren't playing the game to go, oh, I can try this game mode out instead of actually playing classic, it makes sense there's a whole bunch of people coming because of that reason as well, just trying out skirmish mode. Overall, I think skirmish mode, I think that's why the skirmish mode did so well in that first week, and I wouldn't be surprised if like 80% of the players left during the second week and would only then get about 10% of the original week during the rest of the course of this year. Because it's all because of the hype of the new game mode, and I think that was just a short-term success sort of thing. You know, new game mode, try it all out and all that stuff. The people really love it and they keep on playing it. but I think majority of the people was like, it was a nice fun thing to do, but it's really not for me now. So I would have, it's a real shame. I would have, yeah. I think they've misread the room here. They haven't read the room here. There we go. And they've not understood why they've actually made success from EG's point of view. This is me talking about EG. I don't think they've really understood why skirmish mode was such a success, and I think they will just massively see less numbers. I think they will only see 10% of they originally saw in the first week at best. And I think, yeah, it's not like, it really wasn't worth it making this massive overhaul and change as they have right now. Now we're going to be talking about sort of changes to the faction leaderboards, offense cards and defense cards. We're going to be talking about here. First things first, faction leaderboard. And I just want to read this out. Yes, we have read the threads, Discord messages and social media replies. We are taking a look at ways to improve the new scoring system. But for the time being, we are bringing faction leaderboards back. This overall is a good thing, because now they're actually they're acknowledging the problems that they have made by re-changing the ranking system, improving the new scoring system. Yes, they're acknowledging that they've messed up. It is the best way of putting it. They're acknowledging that they messed up without acknowledging that they messed up. And they've read it all, they've gone along and said how they've just made things worse, and how going back to the old times would have just been, like 2 months ago, would just be way better. And it really would be. These changes that they've implemented here has really just not been smart, and they really need to think about how to make things better overall. But I'm glad they at least acknowledge this. Because they are acknowledging this, hopefully we do see improvements in the future. All I'm going to say is that fingers crossed that they do actually make it better. But I right now don't have much faith in EG, if I had to be frankly honest. So I'm not overly confident that they are going to do something. Which is actually done me substantial. Hopefully it does come better. Hopefully it does. It would be nice. Certainly would be nice, but I'm not putting any money on it that they'll make things better. But hopefully at least they recognize that there is a problem here, and I'm glad they've acknowledged there is a problem here, and that things do need to be changed. And so I'm happy about that. Then they're talking about how it's gonna be the longest ranking season ever in the next season, with this one season being the shortest. It's because the Space Wars have been introduced on the 23rd of October, and then that ranking season will go from the 23rd to the 1st of December. So it's gonna be a month and a week or so long of a ranking system. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty long ranking system, and overall I think this is a good thing. Because what they've done basically here is that during this season, they've made it shorter, because the new Space Wars are going to come out towards the end of it, which would ruin how the ranking results happen and all that stuff. And I'm just going to have a ranking system when the Space Wars are being just introduced, so then they're balancing it all then and all that stuff. Overall, I think this is a good thing, and it's good for the game that, Space Wars data isn't, randomly mess things up at the end of the season and change things, muddle things all throughout and make things worse or better or whatever, right? It's not gonna mess with everything first. We're just gonna see. We're just gonna see with a new season, new fresh stuff, new fresh season, everything's refreshed, and we're gonna go from there and see what happens. I'm glad they've done that. Next up, we talk about offense cards and how they're going away for classic mode. Basically, there's been a lot of jokes in the Warforged Discord, and it's particularly around this part here. Some main aspects we have been trying to improve with recent changes have been match length and players' mental load. And unfortunately, offense cards are ultimately slowing matches and adding extra mental load to decision making. Oh gosh, this is terrible. Guys. Oh no, my mental load. Oh, what am I gonna do about this simplistic game with straightforward mechanics of a card game? Oh no, it's my mental load, guys. It's really getting to me. What am I gonna do? Oh no. It's the start of this game, this huge complication. I'm an aggro warlord. Do I go for orbital bombardment or not? Oh no. My mental load. Oh no. Oh man, my opponent's Vara Tigurius and he only has 3 stratagems in his deck. Do I go for aerial clash so I draw extra stratagems and he doesn't? Oh no guys, my mental load, it's so difficult. Oh dear. Gosh darn. Anyway, they're getting rid of offense cards. Because apparently it's causing too much of a mental load on particularly new players, and it's slowing the game down, and they don't want that to be the case. Ultimately, I actually agree with this decision, but not for the reasons given. In fact, I think the reasons given are absolutely the worst ones I've ever seen, and it's just not a good thing. It is completely the wrong reasons to actually make this change. There are reasons, and it's actually because it affected some warlords a lot worse than others. And it really made massive downsides for certain warlords. And unless you make all the defense cards the same, but then at that point, if you make all defense cards the same, offense cards the same, make them all the same, it's like as if you're not making a decision at all, to be frankly honest. So I ultimately do agree with them making this decision, but I'm kind of concerned for why the reasons why they're making the decision in the first place. I'm very concerned about that. I don't think I think their reasoning is terrible. Like, the mental load, this is such a simple game. Like, maybe this is a bit complicated if you've never played like Magic the Gathering or card games before, basically. If you've never done that before, and this is your first game ever, and you're just getting into this, right? You're just getting into the game and you're deciding, you know what? What is going on? What is this? What is this basic mechanic? What do you mean I got 2 different attacks? What is this? What is that? From that perspective, fine. But that is what a tutorial is for. Okay? So hence you need to make a good tutorial, which I think Warforges is decent, actually. So I don't think it really is that difficult for a new player to be able to get into this game, to be frankly honest. So overall, I think yeah, it's really not in a yeah, for the reasons they give it, it's a terrible decision. And if they were doing it on just this basis, I would have told them, no, don't do this, because your reasoning is awful. Now, the reasoning that I would give to why this is actually a good thing is that it becomes very difficult to balance, basically, when factoring in certain warlords, and how it can be really punishing. Certain offense cards can be really punishing to certain warlords in this game, and how it basically prevents them from being able to play the game as they would want to. A really good example for this is Galaron the Pious, and the offense card which does extra damage whenever you get a, what is it called? I'm trying to think. The defense card which gets extra deals damage to both warlords effectively when you get a skull or whatever. That defense card was absolutely awful for Galaron, because it really punished him a lot. It really put the damage on him it forced them to put in so many survivability effects just to be able to keep him alive, and even then he was at a massive downside. And you basically always took it against Galaron all the time, unless you're like Galaron himself, I suppose, or something equivalent. Otherwise, I guess maybe you just go for the neutral one. But really, this is awful for him, and should. Yeah, it's terrible. It's not fun. And because it ends up becoming such an obvious counter, and is a counter that Galaron can't really avoid outside of just him going first all the time. So it's a real, I think it's a good thing that Galaron, this for that example, it's a good thing they're removing this. It just stops those situations where I've got this defense card, so now you lose. And it just always becomes, I'm aggro, okay, I take Orbital Bombardment. They're going wide, okay, I take Orbital Bombardment. I'm playing against Tyranids, they're going for big bugs. I go for Acid Rain because all my guys are going to die anyway. They're going for, I'm trying to think now. I'm playing against Shadow Sun. I'll do the one which costs extra energy to whenever they play a stratagem. Or on VAR, they cost extra energy to play a stratagem. They're going for whatever, I'll do this. They're playing Pill Guard, I'll take defense cards so they take extra damage so I can deal with their things easier. I don't have card draw and I'm playing against Sisters. Don't want to get extra cards at the beginning of the game because all that means is an extra option for them, but for me it means I get to play with more cards. You know, that sort of thing. It becomes very clear, very, very clear when to take a defense card and when it doesn't. And once you just figure it out, you know, you're going to figure out in the first 10 games when you need to or not. Not that you can get all the defense cards in just first 10 games of playing this game. You certainly can't, but you're then able to figure out which defense cards you need in which matchups in the first 10 games pretty much. Once you do, it just becomes, I know what defense, I know what to take to beat this opponent now. And it doesn't matter about your deck, it doesn't matter about your skill, it doesn't matter this, it's just like, I use this now, you lose sort of scenario. So overall, I think this change probably is a good thing to be honest. It just means that every single faction has to be balanced around the fact that this offense card can be used against them. And it just becomes, it can lead to, I would say, unfun experiences. It does stop certain decks from existing in this game. Because a certain defense card said no. So I think overall, this is going to be a good thing, removing this, but I'm taking this from much more of a, let's alleviate the casual player's mental load so that they don't get hurt as much by trying to play this game. I'm really not for that reason at all. It's really because these defense cards, from a competitive perspective, actually can just prohibit certain gameplay styles from existing. And now things can be better balanced in principle without these cards messing things up. Ultimately though, I don't, was this necessary? I think it was possible to balance this game with defense cards in mind, but I mean, like, whatever makes it easier for EG to actually balance this game, right? Because if they can't manage the mental load to be able to balance this game, to do it properly, to be able to fix this game with defense cards as a factor, then fine. If they can't manage it with their mental load, not being able to understand how to balance this game, for their mental load's sake, we will be nice to them and say, fine, you can remove this. You can add it into a fun game mode where you don't have to balance that game mode later on, right? You can have it for that. But for this, what you can do is that you can just alleviate your mental load. We'll make it easier for you guys to be able to understand what's going on. Don't worry, EG. Don't worry, you can have some rest now. That your mental load won't be nearly as affected. You can now balance the game, okay? It's fine. It's fine, EG. Don't worry about it. Oh dear. Oh, I'm sorry, it just makes me laugh. But yeah, I think that point is, even though I think this is a good thing, it's not for the reasons that EG give. Next up, we're going to defense cards, which will be selected in your in your deck you make. From now on, for both classic and skirmish decks, you choose your defense cards during the deck building phase. This is ultimately a good thing. I would say it means that you can build certain defense cards around certain sort of play styles and whatnot. I think this is a good thing. It's not for the mental load argument. It's really not. It's just that it means that you actually because most of the time you just end up choosing the same defense card anyway. For example, Ultramarines just chose majority of the time. You would always choose Hive Factory. So now I can just make it easier. Just just get on with the game. I choose Hive Factory. Like, what else am I going to choose? Not Hive Factory? Like, of course I'm not going to choose not Hive Factory, and I choose Hive Factory every single time. The only times I didn't choose Hive Factories, every single occasion, I would go for the Camouflage of Armor one. This is if I'm playing particularly Chaplain Navarius. There would be occasions where I'd be using that one instead. And in the right decks for that, I think I will be choosing that one. But majority of the time, you just take Hive Factory. Because it's better. It's just better. It's just the best one. What can I say? Factoring that in though, I think is a good thing. And it does. How do I say this? It speeds up the game in the sense you save those couple of seconds deciding, is this the right situation for me to go Fire Strike Turret? And then you decide, no, it's not, because Hive Factory is just better. So yeah, what can I say? you just take Hive Factory. And I think it will speed up the game in that sense, in the fact that you will just base your decks around these couple of factors, I'd say. Smarter missions. So that's all. The second point is that I think this is mostly positive. I think this things about skirmish mode is actually mostly negative. This does seem to be mostly positive overall, I would say. Although there is certainly concern that DG don't know what they're doing. Well, actually, I don't think that was ever a concern. That's already been proven. But whatever, maybe they really don't know what they're doing. But we'll pretend that's not the case for now. Smart missions, what they call it. And on to the next step, which is resource management. Basically, they're acknowledging that the mission systems to get points for your certain factions, you accumulate those points. There's a problem with it, and the problem basically goes. I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think now. These missions grant you points, and they're a bit difficult to do. They're a bit obscure. You might have to play a certain faction to be able to unlock those points, and they're reshaping it in principle to better suit just playing with any faction to collect these points, and you don't have to go in specific ones to be able to collect them. Well, to be honest with you, with this one, we'll just have to wait and see how they redo it and see all the actual missions themselves, see if they're better or not. With this point, in principle, they should be. I'm gonna completely wait and see, make my judgment then. But hopefully, this in principle is a good thing. So I'm hopeful. This is good. I'm not saying this is a good thing yet, because it could turn out to be terrible, because they might mess up all the missions and whatnot and then make it not good for everyone. But in principle, the missions are a little bit, I have to play this warlord to be able to unlock that mission, and now it's I can just play with any warlord and then I can unlock that mission and I can get points for just playing the game, which would be nice. Generic campaign points. This is just acknowledging the points you get from your missions basically go into the generic campaign points pool, and you can pen those points in any campaign that you desire, meaning that you're not just collecting a whole bunch of points from one campaign and then you can only use it for that campaign. You don't have to keep on switching between the two. This is just a simplifying system, and it's good overall. So I do appreciate this as well. Finally, there is, they acknowledge something which happened. I'm just going to read it out for a bit. Last month, a change that increased crystal costs of visually upgrading cards by approximately 12% and slightly reduced crystals awards in draft mode sneaked its way into the game. These changes were intended for a later update, but ultimately concluded ahead of schedule. Because of this, they were not documented in the release notes at the time. Once the issue was identified, we made a decision to communicate the change closer to when it was originally planned to go live with this month's update. In hindsight, this was not the right path to take, and we have already taken steps to improve in-studio communication and how these situations are handled going forward. Basically, what they're acknowledging here is that earlier this month, I think, when there was a change increasing the crystal costs to grade cards by approximately 12%, I think it was 12.5%. Making it harder to grade all your cards, meaning you need to get more crystals to actually able to grade them, slowing you down further. Now, why they did this? I think it's in principle easier to get crystals, and then the idea is that people building up too many crystals. I understand they're a company and they need to make money, but I'm not really seeing a system here to gain more crystals more easily. So if you don't increase the crystals requirement, all that's doing is forcing people to either play the game more or buy more crystals, which is not a good thing for us players. And I'd rather them just go along. We're increasing the crystals because we are struggling for money, and so hence we need more people giving us money to able to maintain this game afloat. If that was the reasoning, I could accept this, this more at the end of the day. I really could. I could go along and say, yep, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, blah blah, this is what's going on. And then I could understand this. But it's not acknowledging the fact that they're increasing crystals because they need to make more money or whatever to stay afloat. It's not acknowledging that at all. It's just going along and saying, this was meant to happen in a future update and then it happened and now please forgive us. Sort of like going for that. There's a phrase that I learned recently which was better to ask forgiveness than permission. And I think that's, to be honest with you, if I had to guess, this is what they've done here. It really has. And this in hindsight, it was not the right path, and we were already taking steps to improve in-studio communication. Like, that's complete bollocks. It really is. It's just, that is complete nonsense. I think you know what you're doing here. Like, if you either go along and acknowledge you messed up, and then you revert to the decision that you made, and then introduce this at a later date, or you just acknowledge what's going on and what's happening straight away as soon as possible. It's really quite deceitful, and they're worried about people accumulating too large of a crystal collections. They have to sort of spend more of it in the long term, but really the only time you should increase spending crystal usage is when people are gaining more crystals via other methods. Now, there could be that you get more crystals by playing skirmish matches, and I could understand the reduction in draft mode. The reason why this might be the case is because skirmish matches might not get as many crystals, and so hence it was, this increase in crystals basically came with the new draft matches being skirmish mode. It kind of makes sense. You don't get as much crystals from playing your draft games, and so hence you play all the draft games, and then since because they're a lot quicker now, you end up getting still the same amount of crystals or even more crystals for the amount of time you spent in. I kind of get those points, and I can accept those actually more. But it really is quite deceitful that they've done here. That they just didn't. First off, they messed up in the first place. They're able to release this crystal increase early when it's not for the intended date. Secondly, the fact that they're not even they tried to hide it under the rug and just didn't acknowledge it when it happened is also not a good thing either, which I think is a real shame. So they've got things in summary here. If I had to do my summary of this, all of these changes, it's there's some good and some bad. The good is that skirmish mode is here. The bad is skirmish mode is now in the main game mode. I'm not gonna lie. The good is that they've acknowledged that the 4-faction system isn't really, the 10-win system isn't really working, and they need to do changes about it. The bad news is they still don't seem to understand quite fully why this system is bad, and why the decisions they're making isn't really a good one. They still not understanding why offense cards and removing them is actually a good thing overall, probably. They don't really get why doing this is a good thing. They're just doing it, which is never stores confidence in myself, to be frankly honest. The final thing is that they are changing the system with missions and stuff, which I think is good, and generic campaign points I think is also good, but also that they can be deceitful and liars is also not a good thing, and that's never stores confidence in myself either, and how they're willing to backstab people because of this, which is a real shame. So that's my summary of this. What's coming next? Frequency in live events, new PvE mode apparently, and alliances. Basically, they're trying to add alliances. There's a new PvE mode, so player versus enemy mode. I don't get how there would be a player versus enemy mode, and that will never make quite sense to me. And the frequency of live events. Okay. The live events would be cool. All of these things I think are principal and cool. How they're going to do player versus enemy, I have no idea. Because the AI bots are pretty bad as it is now, so we'll see what they come up with that. But alliances and frequency events would be interesting. This is of course together we're working on the next piece of content, but that's for a story for another moment. They've got more content to come later date, probably another faction, whatever. We'll have to wait and see on that, but we got the Space Wars for now. So yeah, that's the overall summary I wanted to give on that. There's quite a lot here, so thank you forever who have been listening to me to this. Now we're going to be going on to the next article, and I just want to very quickly point out with this is this is the release cycle. They've got some release cycle here starting on the 20th. They're talking about all the Space War cards to the 22nd. I am not on this because actually I am not part of the Warforged creator program, unlike I presume majority of these people here, as you can see, are. This is overall fine. I just haven't signed up to the creator program yet. I noticed there was like a 500 subscriber requirement, which I simply did not meet the 500 subscriber requirement. So if you want to subscribe to me, please do. I'd really appreciate it. I'm not trying to get this for free shills or anything, definitely not. Just give me a second here. Yeah, just like and subscribe, guys, definitely. No, I'm kidding. My YouTube channel isn't even that great anyway, don't do it. But yeah, that's just explain why I'm not actually on this list. It's because I'm not part of the Warforged creator program. That being said, I just wanted to really quickly cover this, is that you begin your saga in style sort of thing. Basically, there's vault tickets. And I very quickly wanted to talk about this and how it was a terrible system before. Now, it could be possible that they're changing this. I won't deny that they could be changing the vault system, which would be good. But the vault system in the past was really terrible for everyone playing. It kind of just ruined the whole experience of there being a new faction. And the fact that this is going to happen with the Space Wars, and in principle, nothing's going to change from it, isn't going to be exciting for anyone. It's basically, it's going to be a real shame because people going to get hyped up for playing it on the 23rd and then not be able to play with the faction on the 23rd, then have to wait until next month when they stop the vault system, then they can start playing the game again. The best thing to do, everyone, is definitely to collect your vault tickets until you approximately get 77 vault tickets. I'd probably go up to 70 and then spend them all straight away until you get the legendary card that is bound to be in each vault pack. You're probably going to be a legendary in the third pack, the third week of the pack. So I would basically recommend this, and doing that for this new faction sort of release. But yeah, it wasn't that's what I recommend doing. But ultimately, in the past, the Space Wars thing was never fun. It really wasn't. And sorry, not the Space Wars thing, the Vault thing was never fun. It didn't work for the Orcs, it didn't work for the Emperor's Children, it just slowed the game down, it made things uninteresting, it meant that certain people could get certain cards beforehand, and it kind of just forced you really to just spend a ridiculous amount of money just to be able to get the faction you wanted earlier. which nobody liked. So I would recommend that they don't do this, or at least change how the vault system worked altogether, because it doesn't work, and it ruins everybody's day. So we'll have to wait and see what happens after this with the vault. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I just wanted to talk about that very quickly before I went off, and how this is going to be a thing. Get ready for it, because, well, it's not going to be great, is it? Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.